I want to talk a little bit about the Chicago Bears and what they did and what they've shown. In my opinion, I didn't think much of this team after the first 3 weeks of the year. You come out, you play pretty well in week 1, you get your first win. You come out in week 2 and you get smacked around by the Green Bay Packers. You come out in week 3 and you dominate a St. Louis team and in Chicago, and I didn't know how to judge that game. I didn't really know how to look at the comparison of St. Louis versus Chicago. How good is St. Louis really? And then you come out on Monday night against a team that a lot of people considered through the first 3 weeks not bad, not great, but good enough that they could make a run for their own division in Dallas. A lot of people felt that way after 3 weeks of watching Dallas. Inconsistent, but the ability to win games.
Yeah.
And then they come out and they pretty much thunder punched my Cowboys. I love that word. I'm going to use it as many times as I can. They come out and thunder punch my Cowboys. 2 interceptions to the house. Great, individual efforts from especially like Lance Briggs, who had like 9 tackles, forced fumble, and then the pick to the house as well. I mean, Lance Briggs played an amazing game. You had a secondary that was flying all over the place, making plays. And offensively, though the offensive line on that Chicago Bears team does not play that consistent, they came out and played a very good game against a team that has shown a pass rush so far this year. They picked apart a secondary that's given away the least passing yards this year. And they did it with such a swagger, such a confidence on how they did. Like, they knew they were going to be able to do it. And, when I talk about this, I'm trying my best not to be a Cowboy fan, but, Dallas handled it. Because, no, Chicago came out and played a good game. The pick by Charles Tillman is about the only gift I'm going to say that the Bears got in this game. Everything else they earned. And I truly believe that. And when you watch this team, it's very interesting because it's amazing the dynamic that Matt Forte brings to them. Even if he doesn't play well, him being on the field is a whole different approach by a defense when you play this team. And I guess, what I'm trying to get at is, Cutler goes 18 of 24, 275 yards. Brandon Marshall, 7 catches, 138 yards. And yet, they did it with Devin Hester. They beat Dallas with this random named dude tight end that I don't even remember his name. Defensively, they played lights out. They only got to Romo once. They only sacked him one time the entire game. But they had pressure on him. They made Dallas play the game they wanted Dallas to play. We talked about the run game before.
Yeah.
They made Dallas one-dimensional, which is what they wanted to do. And I think the Bears deserve credit. This was actually my Super Bowl favorite going into the year. I think that if they piece everything together, they have one of the most talented teams in the NFL. And I think that when you look at this defense, you know what you're going to get out of your linebackers. You know what you're going to get out of Julius Peppers. It's what other guys are going to step up. And last night you had Eric Wright step up. You had Charles Tillman step up. Eric Wright had 2 interceptions last night. The second one was to completely just put the game away.
Yeah.
Charles Tillman, the pick to the house, had some big tackles and some open field moments against Murray and other players. And I think this Chicago team deserves credit for what they did last night. And I know Romo threw 5 picks.
Came back off injury, looked pretty good in his return, too. I mean, I think he had like 11 or 13 carries, had like 50 yards rushing. Pretty decent game coming back for your first game off injury, sharing the workload with Michael Bush. I'd like to give him some credit. I mean, a lot of people didn't think he'd be back nearly this fast. Looked pretty good.
He did. Hey, he had a night on his first carry, gained like 9 yards. Nice little cut. Thought Dallas had him, and off he went. Another play, I watched Dallas's a defensive lineman literally knock Chicago's left guard onto his ass as soon as Chicago called Ike. But it was a handoff to Forte. Forte was able to outrun the guy to the angle and then cut it back because the hole was open and just went. And that was a play that should have been blown up in the backfield, and instead Fortes makes something out of nothing. It's a situation as simple as this. The Chicago Bears came out with a good game plan, and they executed it very well. That touchdown pass to Devin Hester, that is not a pass that should happen very often. Throwing off of your back foot on a deep post route towards the end zone, Shouldn't happen that often.
No.
But you have a rookie mistake by Claiborne and giving away the inside when, apparently, according to the analysts, look, I know football, but I am not a coach's tape guy. I'm not a guy that sits there and knows the ins and outs of every single play. But what I do know, and I agree with the analysts, is when you're playing a press coverage situation, the number one thing you're supposed to do is press the guy and try to force him towards the out-of-bounds line. Because if he goes out of bounds, he cannot be the first guy to touch the ball. Automatically, almost pretty much eliminates him from the play. So Claiborne makes the mistake and lets Hester get inside and then gets eaten on a double move by Hester. I mean, just eaten on it. And Hester gets wide open. Cutler makes a great throw off his back foot. And there's a touchdown right there, 17-7 Chicago. But I just, I really wanted to touch on the Bears for a couple minutes because I just really felt like the Bears did a hell of a job last night. Like I said, they came out, they executed their game plan. They did what they wanted to do to win the game. And they did it. And I think this is a team that if the offensive line can protect Jay Cutler, they can win a lot of games. I really think that's what you're looking at with this team. How good of play can you get from the O-line? If it's good, this team is really good. If it's bad, Jay Cutler's on his ass, and they look average. Yeah, but I want to give credit to the Chicago Bears for coming out, having a really, really good game plan. And then when they came out, they executed their game plan exactly how they wanted to, and that included not being able to get too much pressure on Romo with just 4 pass rushers, which is something they thought they were going to be able to do. So, the Dallas O-line steps up and is able to protect Romo a little better, and yet the Chicago Bears defense still makes plays when they needed to make plays. And, the response after the Dallas turnover on Chicago, that was Cutler's first turnover all year. No fumbles, nothing. That was Cutler's first turnover. Not Cutler's. I'm sorry. That was the Bears' first lost fumble. I'm sorry. I said that completely wrong.
Cutler's had a whole
in Chicago game alone. He had 4 interceptions. I'm sorry. That was the first time the Bears lost a fumble all year long. And then they come out and respond and force a fumble or pick to the house. I don't know, whatever you want to call it. Either which way, they force a turnover on Dallas on the very next play. So instead of a defense being discouraged and down, they come out and play like a man football pretty much. Credit is given where credit is due. Chicago came out, played a really great game. Credit to Matt Forte for coming back. I think that balance of Forte and Michael Bush is a very good 1-2 combination. Brandon Marshall on the outside just makes life easier for everybody on that team in general. And Lovie Smith, man, what do you say about Lovie Smith? 8-2 now, all time in his career as the Chicago Bears head coach on Monday night. I mean, that's a hell of a record on Monday night. Prime time, everybody in the league in the country is watching.
Steps up in big situations.
So, just like I said, I wanted to give credit to the Bears.
They deserve a lot of credit. They came out, they played well, they executed their game plan. Got the ball to Marshall. The Dallas wasn't able to do this week, against Marshall what they were able to do last week against Vincent Jackson. They just executed better, and all the way down to both sides of the ball. They played better on offense, played better on defense, played better on special teams. They won all 3 aspects of the game last night, in my opinion. If you do that, you're going to win every week. That's what you got to do. And you got to win the turnover battle, which they did. You got to win all three sides of the ball. Pretty much.
Yeah.
They did all that. They did everything you need to do. The Bears completely deserve credit for this win. As much as, like you said before, we were hating on the Cowboys. The Cowboys didn't lose this game. The Bears won it.
The Bears won it. I completely agree. I mean, the 5 turnovers, like I said, that is something that the Bears deserve credit for. Especially, they being in the right place at the right time. It doesn't matter how you get the interception. The fact is you got the interception. Last but not least on this game, the last thing I just want to say is that, talking about the Bears and giving them credit, it was a 3-0 game when Dallas goes down, or Dallas punts the ball and pins Chicago inside their own on the 6-yard line. And that was when Chicago drove all the way down the field and scored the touchdown to make it 10-0 before the 2-minute warning. And that to me is what shows you how confident this Chicago Bears team was. Instead of being worried and saying, all right, let's just try and change field position, they went out and they drove the ball 94 yards for a touchdown to make it a 2-possession game. And from there, they never looked back. It's that simple. And you got to give credit. You just got to give credit to this Bears team, and that's pretty much what I'm trying to do.